In Le Dernier Dawn, which means the last donation in French, you play as Lucy, a young orphan trapped in a broom closet while the rest of the world celebrates the end of the First World War. Initially, you think that there's something cruel about locking a child away in the closet, but perhaps her punishment was actually a blessing in disguise because something would begin to unravel at her orphanage. So, she should be glad that she was in there while it did. I went into this game expecting something dark, but as always when it comes to humans, I uncovered something much more horrific. But one thing to note that I find interesting about this very short horror game is that it was actually just a student project created as part of a bachelor's degree, and honestly it punches well above its weight. So, tonight, we are going to walk through this story together. Remember, this is a story explained, not a lore video. There is a difference. With me, you're getting answers and a journey, and if you enjoy story deep dives or psychological analyses, hitting that like button encourages me to continue making more for you. Since you're still here, you're coming with me. Welcome to
Le Dernier Dawn.
The Thunder's Sound is our first introduction to our adventure in the orphanage. We slowly emerge from the darkness thanks to the knocks on the door facing us. The only thing standing out is a light that finds its way through the keyhole. We silently approach it in hopes to find out who or what knows that Lucy is in here. But when she apprehensively peers through the keyhole, she sees the shocking abomination that is a young girl with more eyes than she could ever need. She then uses the key to unlock the door. She wants us to come out of the broom closet. Lucy would never understand why she was punished and locked in there at all. But before accepting the scary girl's invitation to get out, we look around the closet and find a journal lying on what seems to be a makeshift bed. Reading an entry dated July 12, 1917, we learn how some of the children have been taken to surgery, despite not showing any symptoms whatsoever. So what is this surgery and what are the specific symptoms? Continuing the journal, we see that among these children, there is one named Albert. Lucy seems to hold him as a dear friend. We also learn that a certain Sister Madeleine is taking care of us and the other children in this orphanage. After putting the journal down and taking a look at the strange drawings on the walls, there's one of a family with an odd creature holding the parents with its legs or tentacles. But there's a second one that shows a child laying in bed, scared of a monster opening the door. Who is the monster, and is it really a monster? Because children do often have a warped understanding of the world, but their feelings often always remain valid. Moving forward, it's time to leave this tiny room, and we head towards what seems to be a messy dormitory. With the imposing, dreadful sounds of pouring rain outside, we discover a doll that almost looks like the charming young girl we met earlier. On the walls are warnings about staying quiet at night. Nothing unusual for a children's orphanage, but continuing on, we pick up a one-eyed stuffed rabbit. However, what is really catching our attention is the silhouette at the end of the room, rocking slowly. We press on, leaving the dormitory and stepping into a dim corridor, where we come across a letter from one of the children, Louis. In it, he asks about father and hopes to see him soon. But that's when we turn around and see Sister Madeleine again. Her eyes vacant, her expression unreadable, and in an instant, she disappears once more like a ghost tethered unwillingly to this place, but still following Lucy. Yet there is no time to dwell. The deeper we go, the more destruction we see. Equipment shattered, walls marked, something terrible happened here, but what? We then open into the cafeteria. Here we see the party that they had to celebrate the end of the Great War. Streamers, decorations, maybe even laughter, but it looks like the party didn't last long. And then, that's when we see him. A man, or what's left of him, suspended with his arms tied to two pillars. The only part of him touching the floor is his intestines, coiled and dripping blood that hasn't dried yet, indicating that this was a recent event, which also means who, or whatever, did this could still be lurking around. Behind him sits a large pot. We hesitate, our minds racing to guess what was on the menu, but before we could finish the thought, we see it. A human head, stewing in broth, another man. But we don't stick around. We follow the corridor and catch a glimpse of the sister from a distance, but there's no time to linger, so we press on towards the reception room, and as we descend the stairs, strange winged figures, dragonfly angels, watch us from the walls. Their eyes seem to follow young Lucy with every step, eerily reminiscent of the Mona Lisa. Suddenly, a silhouette, small, childlike, slams against a window with a loud knock before vanishing into the shadows. But even that disturbing moment pales in comparison to what's waiting at the end of the next corridor. A misshapen figure, standing motionless. Just as expected, when we move towards it, it darts away. With no option, we follow it anyway, and it leads us to another corpse. This one is suspended above the stairwell, face torn clean off but still bearing a message. His name was Pierre Lefebvre, and judging by what's left of him, he seemed to admire Sister Madeleine in life. But now he's just another victim. Downstairs we find a strange poster, a red-haired woman clutching a severed blue arm alongside an amputee soldier. A bizarre thing to hang in an orphanage, especially one that's already drowning in tragedy. But across from this poster is another hallway, although this one is sealed off by a massive, grotesque, and pulsating wall of organs. But like everything else in this place, it vanishes just as quickly as it appeared. And yet not everything disappears. Nearby we discover a new journal entry dated October 23, 1918. It mentions a strange medication and a fear of something that comes at night. It reminds us of those first drawings we saw when this nightmare began. Moving in deeper into the orphanage, we see the next victim, the receptionist. It looked like he got hammered. Then, another grotesque display. Pierre's face now cleanly arranged on a marble bust carved in his likeness. Whoever massacred everybody here, this was personal. Passion and hate flowed into these mutilations and murders. Next to this, we find a blood-soaked teddy bear, small and frail. Without thinking, we pick it up. But when we do, the creature returns. It shrieks at us from the dark, loud and sudden. We stumble, disoriented, and just like that, it's gone again. And so we're left there standing, shaken, and wondering what exactly we just witnessed. The next room is the infirmary, where Lucy would notice a strange yellow light emanating from behind a large wooden furniture. We also see an arm stuck between it. But there is no way for such a small girl to move it. So after we find the code behind the photo of the children, we're able to open the secret door. It was a corridor leading to a very old elevator, but wherever it led to, would it have the answers? Would Lucy even want to find the answers? Arriving in a cleaner corridor, we walk on to find a double-headed infant stuck in a jar. The neighbor, an adult male, conserved in the same way. But what's even stranger, perhaps even sickening, were the two cozy chairs placed next to a large window, giving a nice spectator's view of the operation room below. And looking down there, we can make out a body resting on the operation table with a pool of blood. But Lucy just bravely continues on, walking near what seems to be prison cells. What horrid things were happening in this orphanage? Is this the place they did those surgeries? Where the other kids, her friends, would come to? And in the following cell, whatever was in here was huge. They had to contain it not just with the bars, but with glass as well. On the walls, erratic writings of a child calling for the monsters to stop. A piece of paper is laying on the ground and holding one of the biggest secrets of this orphanage. A General Henri Dubois is thanking Dr. Renault for his controversial research and treatment of war amputees. The children of this orphanage were used in experiments to help the French army. This whole time, horrific human experimentation in the name of science. But at what price? Lucy's friends? Albert? As we descend the stairs, the man on the operating table comes into full view. His chest is torn wide open, organs exposed, and yet somehow he's still breathing. Nestled inside the wound is a message, soaked but still legible. It's from the General once again, but this time his tone has changed. Now he's calling for the end of the experiments. The war is over. However, he specifically names one final subject, Albert, Lucy's friend. The order is clear: terminate him.
Armée française.
Albert was still in that mutated thing that they created, but forever changed. He, like so many other children, were victims, turned into experiments, and I believe Albert was one of their successful ones, meant to be used as a weapon in the war effort. But because the war was over, there was no longer any need. However, the General would still call for an extermination of the research and all of their findings. It was too much of a risk to keep them around. If anyone found out the abhorrent things that they did down there, or if their weapon ever got out, well, Albert did get out. And you saw what happened when he did, what he did to the orphanage. He was in pain, he got revenge, but the only other question I have is, who was that other girl with the extra eyes? And where were the other orphans? If you want to see another messed up story, click this video on the screen.